Je suis surtout un homme qui a tout quitté, mais qui a laissé sa famille dans un pays à feu et à sang.
انتم ما زلت عندكم فرصة باش ترجعوا لحياتكم العادية وتخليوا هذا الكل وراكم.
Hello and welcome to our weekly film show with our critic Lisa Nesselson. Lisa, hello.
Hello, Eve.
Now, you've been in Bordeaux in the south of France last week at the animation pitching event Cartoon Movie, hearing about dozens of feature film projects at various stages of conception, development and production. Tell us about Cartoon Movie.
Well, you know, it takes years upon years to make an animated film, moving pencils and computer pixels around. And Cartoon Movie, which just wrapped its 22nd edition, gave 900 animation professionals from 40 countries a chance to see what animators all over Europe are working on or hope to be working on if they can get up funding. There were 66 projects from 20 countries. It was 6 years ago at this event that I was wowed, as was everybody else, by the first images from French animator Jeremy Clapin's I Lost My Body, J'ai Perdu Mon Corps, which won prizes galore and was the only independent animated feature to make it all the way to the Oscars this year. Now, this year, a few projects caught my eye, and coincidentally, women directors, screenwriters, and animators are involved in all of them.
So what stood out for you?
Let's start with something that blends eco-consciousness with delightfully silly animation. I had been unaware of the Anuki, two sprightly critters inspired by the Inuits who have been adopted the world over. In Our Amazing Odyssey, the Anuki are incorporated into live-action footage to sensitize us to natural beauty and also to what's happening to natural beauty at kind of a frightening pace.
Okay, well, from the climate crisis to the migrant crisis, a French animator has been working on The Crossing for about 12 years.
Yes, Florence Mihai, unfortunately, her topic has only grown more urgent as she's toiled over a story dedicated to the over 30 million children who, due to political upheaval, war, famine, live far from their original homes. It will be released this coming September 9th in France.
Let's take a look at The Crossing then.
Now, also focused on how history mistreats children, a fascinating project from Spain revisits the artificial town the Nazis set up in Czechoslovakia to fool the outside world into believing that Jews were being treated really well and even had art and music to enrich their lives. The filmmakers met an elderly woman who had been interned there, visited the site with her, and they plan a combination of live action and animation to describe how the captive Jewish children managed to make clandestine art that showed the camp as it truly was. The animators will incorporate real drawings that managed to survive.
And another French project is The Black Swallow. It's centred on a real-life American, Eugene Bullard, who had a truly exceptional life.
You can say that again. He was a prize-fighting boxer in 1913, flew as a fighter pilot with the Allies in World War I, performed as a jazz musician in Paris in the 1920s, and ended up as an elevator operator back in the U.S. A determined television reporter in the film, an intrepid young woman, tracked him down in 1959. Let's take a look at a rough draft.
The story of the first black fighter pilot in modern history. As a teenager, he fled the racist Deep South to later become a World War I hero, a jazzman in Paris, a civil rights activist back in the USA, only to fall into oblivion. Until an insightful young woman leading an epic investigation that sweeps an entire century across the Atlantic unveils the mystery of a man who lived 1,000 lives.
So So lots of animation to look forward to. Now to a French film out this week, De Gaulle. We'll be hearing a lot about General Charles de Gaulle this year. 2020 marks 130 years since his birth, 50 years since his death, and 80 years since his appeal of the 18th of June, delivered on the BBC from exile in London. Tell us about the new film.
Well, this movie is set mostly over the course of a few weeks in June of 1940, when the Germans were running roughshod over France. The French government was subject to Marshal Pétain's eagerness to broker an armistice with the enemy, and de Gaulle was trying to convey his belief that France should keep fighting and not capitulate. Now, Lambert Wilson does his best as de Gaulle, but the proceedings remain pretty stagey and declamatory, even though the film shows us some lesser-known aspects of de Gaulle's life. For example, it starts with Charles and his beloved wife, Yvonne, waking up together in bed in April of 1940, and we're given reason to believe that they enjoy having sex, in this case on a Sunday morning before going to church. They have 3 children, 2 teenagers, and a 2-year-old girl named Anne who has Down syndrome. And we see that de Gaulle dotes on little Anne, and that both parents refuse to send her to an institution which would have been standard practice at that time. They care for her. So de Gaulle is a family man. He's also a military man, and his stubborn belief in the French nation will, as words on the screen tell us at the end, permit France to sit at the victor's table in 1945.
OK, well, let's take a look at Lambert Wilson as Charles de Gaulle.
Personne ne veut résister à la disparition de la France. Je retourne cet après-midi à Londres pour tenter d'arracher le soutien de Churchill.
Not a chance. We must build up our own forces.
On peut pas prendre de risque plus longtemps. Il faut quitter la maison. Charles, mon grand amour, je ne sais pas où tu es. Et je ne sais pas où je vais. Je suis dans la situation d'une mère qui doit protéger ses enfants et qui va pourtant prendre le risque de les entraîner vers la mort.
Now, given the raw material, it should be thrilling. Why does it fall flat?
Well, it's earnest, but somehow not involving. But I did learn that I could never be a great man of history because, unlike Churchill and de Gaulle, I don't smoke constantly. I did find it interesting that early on, a radio operator approaches then Colonel de Gaulle and asks him if he could repeat something that he'd just said to his men for the radio. So we see them recording in a sun-dappled field, and we see how de Gaulle hit his stride in this newish medium. Later, we see him crumpling draft after draft of that appeal of June 18th, which set the tone for the French resistance, and that text is affixed to certain buildings around Paris. It's interesting that the British government was worried that his speech would come across as a declaration of war, and the BBC would be providing the 4 minutes to do so. Everybody thought defeat was inevitable, except apparently as depicted here, de Gaulle. Words are the only weapon I had, he says to Churchill. Now, would we all be speaking German here in Paris had it not been for de Gaulle? The movie scratches the surface of how to manage love of family, love of country, one's sense of duty, and one's contrarian instincts, but it lurches from episode to episode without that essential flicker that brings a genuine life to life.
OK. Well, out this week in France is a film by a first-time director set in Tunisia in 2011, just after the Arab Spring. Tell us about A Son.
This is one of the most exciting movies I've seen recently. It's complex, it's harrowing, it's suspenseful until the final frames. It probes the power that cultural and religious traditions can continue to have when they smack into people intent on being modern. Now, Sami Bougia is riveting as Fares, a successful businessman with a solid marriage to a successful businesswoman, Miriam, and their beloved young son, Aziz. Driving back from a vacation trip in the Tunisian desert, their SUV is ambushed by armed Islamists. Shots are fired and manage to go through the backseat window where Aziz is sitting, and a bullet punctures his liver. So, a liver transplant is vital and fast. Only direct family members, however, are permitted to be organ donors. Modern medicine is amazing. It tells you things you need to know. It also tells you things that maybe you'd rather not know. So, blood tests to determine which parent is the best match return startling results. Miriam's blood type is likely to cause rejection. And, the doc privately tells Miriam that Fares can't possibly be Aziz's biological father. Now, she knew she'd commit adultery during a long ago rough patch, but she had no idea the child was not her husband's. So how can she confess her unfaithfulness with nerves already frayed by this pressure cooker of Aziz's condition? And believe it or not, that's just the first of several impossible to foresee twists.
OK, well, let's take a look at A Son.
ولدك والله البلاد مشات 150 مليون وعزيز يسلكها ويخرج منها.
شنو هو؟
كل مشكلة عندها حل.
حاجنا بيه باش ناخذ قرار.
الغرام تاع شنو اللي باش ياخذوه؟ علاش تحب تخرج عزيز من السبيطار؟ شنو تحب اكزاكتومون؟ جو فهم با ما قول نحب نعرف انا شنو هي الحكايه.
ما يهمنيش انا نحب نلقى حل لولدي.
Well, it looks and sounds utterly compelling.
It is. And, I'm not Tunisian. I don't have a son, but I absolutely felt as if I was sharing their compound dilemmas as they happened. It's a time-sensitive nightmare that shows how everything we think we know and hold dear can change in an instant. So what would you do if your son is fading fast, your wife can't track down her long-ago lover, and you need a human liver? People are constantly advising other people to trust in God, but Fares knows the situation calls for bolder tactics than patience and faith. I am dazzled by how well this film explores the expression, a matter of life and death.
Okay. Well, just before we go, re-released this week is arguably David Lynch's best film, Blue Velvet, his off-kilter ode to American small-town life. Does it still stand the test of time 34 years on?
Well, Kyle MacLachlan and Lauren Dern look freshly minted. Isabella Rossellini is ravishing. And Dennis Hopper is the very definition of an unnervingly scary villain. Before the series Twin Peaks got audiences accustomed to Lynch's unique sensibility in 1986, this 1986 effort was so startlingly original that most people had no idea what to make of it. It's set in this picture-perfect small town, but that town's sordid underbelly is the size of Moby Dick. Lynch, 74 this year, started out as a penniless independent artist. He's now an elder statesman of peculiarity. He's an inspiration, and everybody should see Blue Velvet at least once in their life.
Okay, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to leave you with Blue Velvet. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Are you the one that found the ear? One name that keeps coming up is this woman singer.
The first thing I need is to get into her apartment.
I don't know if you're a detective or a pervert.
Do you like the way I feel?